Imagine seeking help from the most respected healer in your village, only to find yourself buried alive in a dark sugarcane field. This is the chilling true story of Ahmad Suradji, the Indonesian sorcerer who slaughtered 42 women in his quest for ultimate dark power. Born in 1949 into a lineage of self-proclaimed Ahmad Suradji grew up mesmerized by the mystic arts his father used to heal the sick, cast spells, and settle local scores, but this dark fascination came at a cost. Profound neglect, lonely and abandoned by his parents, Suradji failed in school and quickly slipped into a life of crime. By the age of 19, he had already landed behind bars, serving a 10-year sentence for petty crimes and public violence, laying the groundwork for the monster he was about to become. A mere 2 years after tasting freedom, Suradji found himself back behind bars for cattle theft. According to a Crime and Investigation Asia documentary, once he was finally released, he felt a desperate need to wipe away his criminal stigma. His solution: to follow in his father's dark footsteps.
I crave to walk in my father's path.
I learned the mystic arts from no one else but him,
he said. Suradji embarked on his journey into the mystic arts. The locals believed he possessed the power to move clouds and heal the sick, but Suradji was harboring a dark secret. In 1986, a twisted dream set his murderous path in motion. Suradji claimed a dark vision instructed him to collect the saliva of 70 dead young women to achieve true immortality. Driven by this morbid mandate, he began preying on the vulnerable women who flocked to him, seeking love or marital advice. When his patience wore thin, Suradji would even hire prostitutes just to slaughter them. Entirely consumed by his obsession because he simply couldn't wait any longer to hit his target of 70. Once a woman was in his sights, Suradji would agree to perform his magic for a fee of around $300. With the money in hand, he would lead his unsuspecting victims into a nearby sugarcane field. Under the guise of a wish-granting ritual, he instructed them to strip naked and bury them up to their chests, convincing them that this horrifying act was simply a necessary step for the spell to work. Once his victims were hopelessly trapped in the earth, Suradji would produce an electrical cable and ruthlessly strangle them to death. He then drank the saliva dripping from their lifeless mouths, believing it would transfer their divine power directly to him. This gruesome trade of human lives for dark magic concluded with Suradji pulling the corpses from the ritual holes and reburying them in shallow graves near his home. As he later confessed, he meticulously positioned all of their heads to point toward his house of final, chilling touch designed to channel and amplify his sinister energy. And so, Suradji's body count continued to rise. He could have gotten away with murder for many more years had it not been for one unexpected incident. On April 27, 1997, a farmer in Operandi, North Sumatra, was gathering cattle feed in a nearby sugarcane field when he stumbled upon a suspicious mound of earth. The village chief and 5 other men arrived to investigate, only to be met by a sickening stench rising from the soil. Under police guidance, the men dug for 2 grueling hours before dropping their shovels in horror. Unearthed before them was the naked corpse of a young woman. The villagers vaguely recognized her as 21-year-old Dewey, and her family was quickly summoned to make the grim identification. Her mother nearly collapsed on the spot, suffering the agony of confirming the victim was indeed her daughter. Just 3 days prior, Dewey had left home for a simple errand, never to be seen alive again. A local pedicab driver approached the police with a chilling account. 3 days ago, he had driven Dewey to a destination she kept secret.
When I pressed her for answers, she finally said she was going to the home of the shaman, Suradji. I was suspicious because it was already deep into the night, but Dewey just snapped at me to stop being so nosy.
The boy recalled. The villagers were left stunned by the boy's revelation, chillingly reassuring the grieving crowd. Do not fear, this is merely the work of evil spirits. But the most haunting detail of all, they revealed that Suradji himself was one of the very men who helped dig up the girl's body. On May 2nd, 1997, Suradji's reign of terror finally came to an end. He and his 3 wives, who were all sisters, were hauled off in handcuffs. For 5 years, he had been a monster, yet he confessed to only 16 murders, gambling on the hope that if the police found those 16, they would stop digging. He was dead wrong. As investigators combed the grounds for those 16 victims, they unearthed a far darker reality. At least 25 bodies lay buried in the soil. Realizing there was no escape, the mask finally slipped, and Suradji confessed to everything. He admitted to the brutal slaughter of 42 women, all between the ages of 11 and 30. He had deliberately preyed on sex workers, a calculated, predatory move to ensure their disappearances went unnoticed and unreported. As for his motive, Suradji offered a chilling justification. He claimed his dead father had visited him in a vision, commanding him to murder 70 women and consume their saliva. Could he ascend to become a powerful Dukun shaman with the godlike ability to pull even the dying back from the brink of death? The desire to become a Dukun like Suradji is far from rare in Indonesia. According to Wikipedia, a Dukun is a shaman with the ability to heal, prophesy, bestow blessings, cast spells, and perform dark magic. Dukun are highly respected or even feared in Indonesian society, even within regions dominated by Orthodox Islam. They are widely prevalent across the islands of Java, Madura, and Bali. People typically consult a Dukun when facing supernatural problems or unexplained phenomena. It is not just the uneducated who rely on them. Many Indonesians in high social positions with prestigious educations, even those holding Western PhDs, still turn to Dukun or fortune tellers for guidance. Notable figures such as former presidents Sukarno-Suharto, Megawati, as well as Sultans Hamengkubuwono IX and X, all had their own personal Dukun and consulted them before making major decisions. Exactly 1 year after his arrest, in April 1998, Ahmad was sentenced to death by a court in Sub. The trial spanned nearly a year, involving a 363-page indictment and numerous testimonies from witnesses whose loved ones had left and never returned after visiting Ahmad. A 1998 BBC report noted that nearly 100 people in the cramped courtroom erupted in cheers upon hearing the verdict. The shaman appeared eerily calm as he heard his fate. However, it would be another 11 years after the court delivered the verdict before the sentence was finally carried out. On July 10, 2008, after 11 years in prison, Ahmad was taken to the execution grounds. The sentence was carried out at 10 p.m. Before being executed by firing squad, Ahmad, 59 years old at the time, requested to see his wife and some close relatives. His wish was granted. According to the AP, his wife Tumani had also been sentenced to death for aiding her husband, but her sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. Previously, in November 2007. Ahmad's clemency appeal had been rejected by Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. According to the DPA, Ahmad's body was immediately transferred to a hospital for an autopsy following the execution before being released to his family for burial. Local authorities ultimately canceled the burial at the public cemetery because approximately 100 relatives of the victims were waiting there, intent on disrupting the funeral.
In a society where superstition remains so deeply rooted, it is perhaps no surprise that individuals as cruel as Suradji emerged when brought to trial. He repeatedly claimed his innocence before the court. Perhaps it was this very blind fanaticism that killed the humanity within Suradji, and ultimately, it also stripped him of his own life.